Hello, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Team Avatar and my Avatar to the Diversity Mahotsav 2023. I'm Dr. Shabana Iqbal Firoz, and I will be your host for today's evening. As we start, here are a few hygiene checks for a seamless virtual experience. Please close all other applications on your computer and log out from your organization's VPN to conserve internet bandwidth. We would like to thank our partners, powered by partner Kellogg Brown and Root Engineering and Constructions India Private Limited, supporting partners Genesis and EPAM Systems India Private Limited, and our outreach partner MCCI Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Our social media hashtags are hashtag Diversity Mahotsav, hashtag celebrating diversity. Do post your experiences at Diversity Mahotsav on your SM handles with the hashtags. I would also like to inform you all that the Diversity Mahotsav episodes are being live streamed on our YouTube channel. You can now watch the Diversity Mahotsav live on YouTube. Click on the link that is pasted on the chat room. My dear esteemed guests, welcome to the day 9 of Diversity Mahotsav, where the spotlight shines not only on diversity, equity, and inclusion, but on the very essence of what it means to celebrate our human kaleidoscope. Diversity Mahotsav is a month-long festival of sharing, learning, celebrating the uniqueness of every individual, and carrying with us the promise of our inclusion into the new year, hosted by myavatar.com, which is the brainchild of the Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, founder president of Avatar Group. Dr. Soundarya Rajesh is among India's most prominent leaders in the space of women's workforce participation. Avatar, the social enterprise founded by Dr. Soundarya, is India's only organization that provides both strategy and implementation solutions in DEI. Her work in creating careers for women in the Indian workplace is unparalleled, for which she is referred to as the career doctor. Not only is she among the earliest and most impactful voices to speak, write, and teach about gender inclusion, she's also helped hundreds of companies hire thousands of women professionals through Avatar's work. She's a powerful speaker, author, and a very sought after DEI strategist. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and esteemed members of the audience, welcome to our panel discussion on the multiverse of Gen Z and millennials. We are delighted to have you with us today as we explore the fascinating world of these two generational cohorts and gain insights into their similarities, differences, and the exciting individuality they bring to our ever-evolving society. These digital natives, the millennials, born between 1981 and 1996, and the Gen Zs, born after 1996, have introduced a unique set of dynamics to the workforce, from their technological prowess to their distinctive values and preferences. However, beneath the surface, a multitude of fascinating and quirky aspects of this generational cohort's interactions with their employers and colleagues can be explored. This topic dwells into the challenges faced by employers when working with millennials in a light-hearted and thought-provoking manner. Joining us on this panel are three distinguished individuals well acquainted with the intricacies of the multiverse of Gen Z and millennials. Please welcome the first panel for the day, Ruchi Mathur, Global Commercial Marketing Head, Network and Security, Rockwell Automation. She currently leads the Global Commercial Marketing Enablement for Rockwell Automation's Industrial Network and Security business. Currently based in Toronto, Canada, she has earlier been a part of Asia Pacific Regional Marketing Leadership Team, heading marketing and demand strategy for a sub-region. The second panel, Zarina Kapkor, HR leader at Cargill Business Services, is an HR professional and certified coach with experience in leadership development, consulting advisory, talent acquisition, performance management, OD, and change management. The third panel, Dipanjan Saha, Digital Technology Solutions Leader, EPAM Systems India, is a technology solutions leader and responsible for growing the managed services portfolio in EPAM. He is an accomplished innovation and transformation specialist with more than 3 decades of success in strategy, engineering, and operations for global organizations. The panel is to be moderated by Ms. Rashmi Ravindran, currently heading the marketing communications and user experiences at Avtar. She specializes in content management, branding, and strategy to create marketing communication campaigns that result in leads for the sales team. Over to you, Rashmi.
Thank you. Thank you, Shabana. Thank you so much for that. And very, very happy to welcome our panelists for today, Dipanjan, Ruchi, and Zarina. Welcome to the panel discussion. We have a very, very interesting and much sought after topic, the multiverse of Gen Z and millennials. They don't seem to maybe belong to the same universe now, do they? Many, many parallel universes there. We talk about this in many, many contexts, but today, in the context of these two generational cohorts, I think one of the things that, really makes that change for the millennials and consequently the Gen Zs is probably the start of the technological advancement in the world. So we have seen how millennials have grown up during this transition from analog to digital technology, and they've experienced the rise of internet and the advent of mobile phones and the whole emergence of social media. Whereas the Gen Z, on the other hand, is the first generation to grow up in a fully digital world, right? And they were born at a time when smartphones or social media and even instant connectivity, which we talk about today, were already the norm. So looking at it, they're divided by the nostalgic Orkut versus the trendy Snapchat, the old dial-up networks versus the not knowing a world without smartphones, and probably united by Netflix and memes, right? But it's interesting how these two generations are actually holding organizations to higher standards when it comes to topics like inclusivity and sustainability, work-life balance, and other important issues. First of all, would like to have the panelists probably say a hello to the uh, audience before I go further with my questions. So, hi to Ruchi, Dipanjan, and Zarina once again. Very, very happy to have you all here at this very interesting, what seems to be a very interesting evening today.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Rashmi.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. It's a pleasure being here with you all and on this very interesting topic. Yes, of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
A big hello to all the participants as well.
Yes. And I hope we do represent, if not in our age or, our own, a real cohort, we also represent all the other generations, the entire generational differences here in our experience, and we are able to bring about those perspectives here, right? So, interestingly, according to a study by Deloitte, nearly 40% of Gen Zs and millennials say that they have rejected assignments due to ethical concerns. And round about the same percentage have in fact turned down employers that do not align with their values. Which brings me to the first questions, which I would like to ask Zarina. how do you perceive the differences in values and aspirations and even cultural norms between Gen Z and millennials? And how do you think these impact not just societal trends, but also the workplace dynamics, Zarina?
Thank you for that question, Rashmi. Uh, First of all, good evening and a warm welcome to all those who've joined in. I think, as you mentioned, it's a multiverse, and we're trying to decode, especially post-COVID, what does the future of workplace looks like. And a lot of these aspects in terms of the future of work is emerging. These are areas which we are testing and figuring out, how it will evolve. But as you rightly said, well-being, ethical leadership, diverse and inclusive culture. These are a few aspects which some of our Gen Zs are asking, or rather seeking, from our employers. While for some of the millennials who've seen the analog world and the digital world, the transition has been, from their young adulthood to adulthood, where they have had an opportunity to go through a still traditional workforce or a still traditional work culture, where whatever an organization would say or do, you would perhaps at the start of your career, you go by those norms. But as new workforce is coming in, especially the Gen Z is coming into the workforce, we are seeing that there is high expectation from employers around what kind of ethical leadership standards these organizations are demonstrating. There are questions on sustainability. There are questions on carbon footprint. There are questions on what is the purpose with which the organization is headed, and how do I relate to that purpose, or am I able to relate to that purpose? And these are aspects that help them take a decision on whether or not they want to continue or join an employer. So this is what I'd like to maybe say at the outset, and maybe invite Ruchi and Dipanjan for their views as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Ruchi, over to you. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can only concur to what you and Zarina said. Three words that really come to my mind. And I think all of this is powered by information, I would say, overload is certainly digital maturity, emotional maturity, and, ability to deal with the high expectation on learning. I think that comes from the inquisitive mindset that I think millennials largely, but Gen Z greatly are born with, so to say, right? And I think it can only get better, both in workplace and outside of workplace. I think it's more to do with the existing people like us, different age groups, different generations, to kind of adapt, understand, and embrace, the new generations here, which are equipped to deal with a lot more, with a little bit of support, on professional and otherwise non-professional side. So, in a nutshell, I can only agree more. At the cost of being repetitive, I would just leave it there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Understand that, Ruchi. Any other thoughts, Dipanjan, you would like to add there? Or...
I think, completely resonate what yourself, Ruchi, and Zarina were talking about. I think if I really look at it, I probably put a structure there. I look at it like a cluster of boxes, right? So one is the what time, and that's an important part of Gen Z. Second is probably the what place, where they're going to work. And third would probably be the workforce, what exactly they want to achieve. And Ruchi was talking about the training, mentoring part of it, right? And We can go into each of those areas separately, but I think, in a nutshell, if I look at work type, today, if we really talk about the quality of work that we see, and that is evident not just in a product industry, service industry, everything together. Nature of work, quality of work is one of the dominant factor of attrition today, right? With the younger people who are joining. So that's very important. Workplace is something where I see, COVID we talked about, right? So we are in a new normal where we will see more of hybrid way of working. And in our personal life, we work in a certain way. We use our social medias and various other things. I kind of talk about it more like a Sunday night versus Monday morning syndrome, where, when you are in your personal space, you are actually leveraging a lot of innovative technologies to kind of communicate, collaborate, and everything. And then you go to an office, and the office is not allowing those to happen, and very restricted, and showing you the policies and the compliance structure. It's like a very, differentiating thing for a Gen Z person. So that's like a Sunday night and Monday morning kind of a syndrome. We can talk about it later. And I think the important part would also be that increasingly they are not patient about that. I will wait for 1 year to really realize that, right? So that patience part is something which in an organization we need to address very quickly. So there is a problem, go and kind of try to resolve it. If not, give the reason why you cannot resolve it. It's not that every time you will have to resolve that problem, but they are here, what are we doing about it, right? I think that communication perspective is very clear for them. I'll take a pause and then hand it over back to you.
Yes, thank you, Dipanjan. Very, very interesting points all of you did make. In fact, Ruchi, you mentioned about the information overload, which I think has become such a, very prevalent thing. Anywhere you turn around, you have it all at any point in time. There is no such thing. Everything is 24/7, and everything is just opening up to newer information every day. There is nothing called a end point to this. Seems like, which is probably why you want to call it another universe, right? Because there seems to be no end to it. Also interesting, Dipanjan, that you mentioned about impatience. I think it's sort of interrelated. The fact that you have had the luxury of what I was talking about, this instant connections that come. You just have to turn on your phone, your any system, and it's just there. Information is there and things. So, which is why probably there is that impatience when it comes to not seeing that change coming through, right? Especially for Gen Zs. I would say from millennials to Gen Zs, it's sort of just progressed from a little from where again Zarina mentioned about how we have millennials who have a sense of what analog world was. So there is probably a little more patience there, but then it sort of takes off to another dimension when it comes to Gen Z. I just want to touch upon that point. Is it true then that there is this very infamous way of calling Gen Zs as being entitled, seem to be feeling entitled and impatient? Is it really true that that is something that is actually making a big difference to, or is it really something that is just sort of rocking the boat and not actually helping much? Is that a solution or is that a problem that needs to be sorted? How do you see this? Ruchi, probably you can take a shot at it.
Yeah, so I would say entitled, yes, in a certain manner, right? Because availability of information, availability of data, what you call is like always on thing is always there, right? But with that comes an opportunity more than advantage, disadvantage. I think it's an opportunity. I would like to correlate it or kind of, you know, correlated with the problem, or not a problem, but a situation where new technology comes in, right? And people start to think, oh yeah, it's going to say, let's talk about generative AI, for example, right? When automation first came in, and I'm from automation background, so kind of it comes to me mechanically.
Yeah.
So when things come in which are differently enabling people or expanding capabilities of human mindset, we get into a mode of thinking, oh, it's going to change a lot, it's going to take away ability of human beings, and all of that stuff. So same thing, entitlement, yes, there is, but when there's some availability of information, there's a lot of opportunity to organically and inorganically embrace that and develop into something, I would say, with a unique differentiation for your own for your own self, right? So I'd say I want to call it, it's an opportunity that comes with this entitlement, and it largely depends on individuals. And I see most of, at least most of early millennials or late millennials and Gen Zs already thinking about it and taking advantage of it. That certainly helps employers, that certainly helps society in general, because we are already into that mindset, right? We probably don't have to start from ground zero. That reference is already built in. So I think probably time to ask for opinions from other panelists.
Yeah, great point there. Zarina or Dipanjan, any particular, taking off from where Ruchi left, any particular instances in your own experience which you could probably quote, which sort of tells us that, yeah, it could be a solution, not necessarily just a problem we need to solve?
Yeah, I am, seeing this as a solution, because when you look at Gen Z, they, in true terms, global citizens, the access to, work from anywhere. And if I were to just correlate this to maybe one example, if from learning, for most of millennials, there's a lot of focus on maybe acquiring a degree, a formal education. So there is patience of going through that grunt of completing the process of understanding what it takes to get to the other point. But when you look at the Gen Zs, this I think it's about the practicality of what skills I use, or what skills will I get to use, and what are these forums, platforms which will give me the opportunity to acquire those skills. And if you notice, that is also fueling the whole gig economy.
Absolutely.
In terms
very,
of
very true.
In terms of, and it is an opportunity for us to tap in to a completely different way of working, which maybe none of us have experienced in our careers, and of course the generations that came before.
Yeah, I still am wrapping my head around it. That's true. Very, very interesting example, and very true. A very nice example of what that opportunity it could be like. So thanks for that, Zarina. Anything from you, Dipanjan?
I think, we have already talked about it. Ruchi connected on some of the dots. Zarina also kind of pointed some of the stuffs out. I think one part is very important, is the purpose. I think, earlier we used to ask a lot of questions. What is in it for me, this, that, and all. I think right now the young generation is looking for a purpose in whatever they do. Now, what I have seen, and we talked about entitlement and etc. I see this as a big opportunity for us, right? Entitlement is coming because of social and economical advantages that most of our countries are kind of garnering, right? And that will come. But I think the most important part is, if I can explain a purpose to this person, and create that passion for this generation of folks, it really works in your favor. But if you're not able to kind of articulate that properly, if you're not able to kind of express that in clear terms, then probably you will suffer. You will talk a lot of things, they'll probably not connect with you. So I think, the
Yeah.
important is when you are talking to them, look at it a little bit from their perspective, understand how they are looking at the lens versus how you would like to look at the lens. And that probably will give you that sense of that purpose.
Yeah,
Just
so you're saying that they do push organizations into the next purpose-driven. That is the need of the hour too. So great
for,
examples there.
for myself as an individual, right? How do you
Yes.
with my career aspiration? What purpose will serve in the next 10 years down the line where I can connect myself? I think that's very
Absolutely.
important. It's not just enumerating what organization is thinking, but it is also how I am connecting that organizational goals objective with the purpose of that particular individual. I think that's very important, connecting.
Absolutely. Got it, Dipanjan. Thank you. So, Ruchi, I would like to come to you with this next question. We spoke about this here and there, but I would like to pinpoint this about the way digital age has shaped the worldview and behavior of Gen Zs and millennials. How do you think these two generations are actually leveraging technology in both their personal and professional lives? I thought we did touch upon a few things like what Zarina mentioned about, the advent of gig economy because of the way they approached education. But is there any particular way in which you think they are, leveraging technology, which is very interesting and which is probably the future of work in general, which probably the other generations need to catch up with? Yeah, over to you, Ruchi.
Yeah, I'm finding it hard to really articulate a response because right now, for them, digital sits everywhere, right? Professional, personal, emotional, any kind of situation. I think technology comes to them naturally. And if I really take an example of professional world and say that, okay, how would a millennial and Gen Z think of charting his or her own purpose and career and all of that? I think they're much more enabled because of technology support there. I mean, I just cannot stop about this generative AI thing that's we're all learning, right? I mean, last week I was just in a workshop where we spoke about ChatGPT 4.0, right? So I mean, it has just transformed the world, and it's just the beginning. It's, of course, we have to be a little bit careful. The nuances are involved, but I think when it really comes to Gen Zs adopting it, I think by the time they become real professional power, the game would have changed quite a bit. So if I were to just take an example, I mean, recently I was working with I would say maybe pretty typically a Gen Z employee in our company. And even before the organization started to jump into adoption of one particular technology, I think that professional was already into it. Learning for them has become like part of the job, no matter how busy, how consumed they are into their day-to-day work. But I think they typically figure out how to carve out that 1 hour or a couple of hours within a week to be able to upskill them or reskill them. I think for us, unlearning is a little bit of a challenge. For them, keeping the skills up to date is what they are. They're completely understanding the situation, and they're kind of working that out very well. And I think another thing that we should be, as organizations, should be aware of, that while their purpose is defined, their roadmaps are defined, the only thing that probably needs to be dealt with is their ability to have a little bit of a patience, right? Resilience is great, but I think we need to embrace their mindset in a different way and respond differently as organizations. So overall, digital aspect has impacted the way they look at things, they learn things, and they kind of deal with emotional situations. But I think technology is not always the best way in some cases. So it has to be a balance between between adopting and learning from what's available versus what the real life experience can give. But overall, it's a beautiful time to be in.
True, Ruchi, very true. Zarina, any other thoughts there? I would like to actually add a
I was
slight
tempted. Yes,
dimension
yes,
to it.
please.
If because of what Ruchi was talking about, it seems like it's all turning out to be very positive, but there is also this whole concept of getting distracted a lot because there is just so much happening around you. And is while we do talk about impatience, is distraction again going to take away a little bit from this generation? Over to you, Zarina. Other thoughts, plus if you can add
Oh,
something here.
yes, I did have a couple of things as Ruchi was speaking, and it kind of triggered a couple of thoughts. I hope I'm able to summarize all of these thoughts.
Yes.
Maybe starting from when we look at this workforce as this generation, we'll also have to look at what is the socioeconomic environment in which they are growing up. There's a lot of security. When you talk about security, it is in terms of financial security, in terms of some of the basics taken care of, right? While for some of the millennials, you've seen 2001, you've seen 2008.
The crash.
Yes. So you are still cautious in terms of your employment choices. You want to maybe associate yourselves with big brands, bigger names, bigger organizations, have some sort of stability which takes care of some of your basics. And with that, then maybe experiment a little bit with what's out there. With Gen Z, with this entire ecosystem shifting, the entire environment shifting, you will notice they're more open to taking risks. So you will see a lot more of them being open to maybe either interning, taking up roles, experimenting with hopping between different industries to see to just gain that experience and see what it what it feels like to go through something. And that is a good thing, because they will now get to do what we maybe or rather what millennials after a certain security have tried to kind of attempt or get into. So from a distraction standpoint, when you look at the job market, when you look at how the workspaces around us are evolving, it could give way to a completely different population, which has experienced all sorts of work. And they're open to experimenting, trying, and it's great for innovation, great for creating a culture where you want people to bring up new ideas, thoughts, and help the world of tomorrow, because that is what
I've
is
never
needed.
heard a more positive take on the whole distraction bit, where it actually adds to the advantage. Great point there, Zarina. I hope we are able to leverage it that way too. I mean, it really turns out to be an advantage rather than being a disadvantage. I'm thinking we are here to look at the opportunities tonight.
Absolutely.
This
And if I
evening.
may just quickly comment, Rashmi, I think it's also a generational piece where every new thing is considered a distraction unless you realize the full potential of where you could use it. And it takes time for people to realize, and people follow suit, and there are, of course, early adopters as well.
True, very true. It's just probably the timing, the amount of time you can spend, effort to spend has come down largely from where it used to be. Probably the adoption rate is also even what is considered laggards is probably by any stretch of imagination used to be at least early adopters or late adopters. Even today, you don't have the luxury of time where you can afford to be late adopters or laggards, right? So yes, true that, Zarina. Dipanjan, any views on that? Especially the distraction bit. I would like to really sort of put you on a spot by asking that.
let me try to see some of the negative spin there, right? I think
I'm not pushing for negativity, just that it'll be nice to see where we have to really pick it up and
I
see what can be done to not go, completely lose out on the game.
am here for the Gen Zs, right? So what precaution is, all these tools are great. All chat GPTs and AI enabled tools are, we are
Mm-hmm.
living that day in and day out. Earlier it was workflow, robotic process automation, now cognitivism come into picture. We are talking about all this kind of generative AI and predictive AI models. Good, but it should become a productivity enhancer for you. It should not replace your analytical acumen.
Very
And
true.
what I have seen, sometimes using these tools will make you superficial. When the problem is there, you need a tool to help you with the information, but the insight of that is your own acumen, your own gray matter, which you are using. All these AI tools to take to that level will take years together. It will not be there, so soon, right? So I think one word of caution for them is use it responsibly. Use it responsibly, understand it, where you will leverage that, and where you would like to use your own hard work. Because if you think that it will solve everything, in a later part of your life, you will see no, it will not. And there the dichotomy will come and you will be in a state of confusion that what I should embrace versus what I shouldn't. So that's the word of caution with regard to that distraction. I would probably like to add up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that very important, bit of caution that you did talk about. Very true. Dipanjan, now I just want to steer the conversation a little more towards. We have probably in the first few minutes touched upon almost all the aspects regarding this generational cohort, but I would like to dig a little deep on certain aspects, especially concerning work life and career versus personal life aspect here. Coming to you first, Dipanjan, on this. This whole understanding of work-life balance is probably a little higher, and they've everybody, at least the Gen Zs and the millennials, feel a little more empowered to take that call about their lives today. We see that in the way they make their career priorities versus personal fulfillment and well-being being a very huge word that is being really understood today, I would say, rather than just being used. So how do you see that really changing the entire course for organizations when they want to approach even hiring or retaining such talent in their organizations? Yeah.
I think two or three things would be important to kind of ponder upon, right? So one is, I think, instead of work-life balance, if we can look at work-life integration from a perspective of Gen Z. Here it is not really that I will work at this point in time and I will do something. It is my personal time. This is my professional time. What happens with this generation is you have given them a problem to solve, and that problem to solve can come any time of the day, right? And it is not that I have 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. kind of a modality and my problem will get resolved by that time. And after 5 p.m. I have my personal time and I'll go and I will sing or I will, go to dramatics or whatever, my personal time. So one is that work-life integration and organization understanding that perspective of work-life integration is an important element to really, help them and make them successful, right? And from both sides. Second aspect is each of these people will have some personal passion that they have that, this is something I love doing, right? And I have seen that. I have actually, handled multicultural team, and I'm not just talking about India's Gen Z or European or American, but when you have seen that, I've seen in many countries, this young generation people, they have that passion part of it. And you should give some space to them. And sometimes they take a break from the regular work for 1.5 months and then go realize their passion, come back. I think in your work architecture, if you have those kind of flexibility or adaptability in your ecosystem, this will make them stick. They will find purpose. they will find resonance with your structure. They will find this workplace a great kind of supporter for their passion as well. I think that's very important. And one aspect I think Ruchi was talking about is mentoring, from a context of that work-life balance. I think if you really look at 10 years back versus today, our training processes was more of push based, right? I identify these are your gaps, and I become very prescriptive, right? These are your gaps. These are the modules that you should go through, and connect it to your performance appraisal and whatnot, right? So it happens that way. With this generation, I think it becomes more pull oriented, not push. I need to get something, and I need to have that. Secondly, I think the important part is that I don't have a lot of time that I'll sit for 1 hour, 2 hours, and then go through those modules and learn those things. It will be bite-sized, very short bite, 15 minutes, 20 minutes kind of stuff, because that's how I am learning it in the internet. And I want the similar stuff from my organization. So it's pull-based,
micro-learning,
bites, and also it is personalized. You know myself as an organization, you should know me, you should know my aspiration, you should know what I want to become, and all the training materials should be personalized that way for me, right? I think these are the stops. We started with work-life balance, but I talked about work-life integration, how the way you should actually mentor, coach people, and then really, giving them some flexibility for them to pursue their passion.
Yes. Absolutely. Very, very important points there, Dipanjan. Is there anything that your organizations probably are looking to do, if not they already have such policies and practices in place, which you would like to talk about, Zarina and Ruchi, and of course, Dipanjan eventually, yes.
Before I talk a little bit about what Cargill is doing from a holistic perspective, I'd like to kind of touch upon the fact that Dipanjan mentioned around how it is important to bring in the focus on having employees as whole, the different roles that they play. So they're not employees 9 to 5. They come in as fathers, and it could be young parents, mothers, caregivers, students who are also learning, continuing to kind of grow, leaders. So these are different hats that employees wear, and when they come in, they bring their whole self. And it's extremely important when you talk about inclusion to take care of all the facets, all these different hats that people wear, or rather acknowledge it. And at Cargill,
and that is expected today, meaning
exactly
the generation expects that today, and is more expressive about it.
Agree. It expects that, and then it also is looking at what are those aspects that the organization is offering, which accepts me as an employee just beyond the 9 to 5 piece. And from my organization's perspective, from Cargill's perspective, a few things that we've done is investment in an integrated well-being framework, which focuses on mental, physical, financial, and social wellness. So there is something that touches upon each of these areas that we offer. You have sessions which are led by experts to create awareness on each of these areas. We have EAP counselors at office all days, all 5 days. We have legal services for employees. You have mentoring for new mothers till such time that the child turns 2. At least that initial support system is provided to ensure that the aspects that you bring to work, which are beyond the 9 to 5, are also taken care of, and you do not have to go elsewhere. We are offering ourselves as an organization which completely focuses on the true wellness of the the new workforce.
Yeah. Thank you. That sounds wholesome, and definitely, Zarina. Ruchi, over to you.
Probably a couple of more things that Rockwell
Yes.
as an organization has started to do besides what we heard Zarina talk about Kargil is kind of revisiting rewards recognition of the people, right? So as Dipanjan brought in the concept of bite size, I think quick recognition and kind of socializing it, making it visible across the organizations. These are some of the things that probably seem to be resonating with this generation. Another thing that is worthy of mentioning is that we have very strategic program focused on something that we call it as resource groups, right? So they're employee resource groups. They share a common purpose. Purpose could be anything. It could be young mothers, it could be ailing parents, it could be supporting some of their personal needs, which probably are shared across the organization, and giving it a structure. And then you get the people to talk to each other across continents, across the countries, and that kind of creates a strong bonding support system that I think very strongly gets adopted, and the young generation, especially millennials, are kind of brought into this whole concept very strongly. I think organizations can go a long way using this as a really important tool, which probably is doing good for us. And I think one of the things that most organizations have started to do is to give opportunity to cultivate early leadership. It doesn't have to really grow function by function, but giving them opportunities to be part of the leader in one particular aspect. It could be maybe women workforce, women engineers, or something else. And these opportunities allow young professionals to make themselves visible across executive leadership too. So I think these are some of the great things that we have been doing probably very well within the organization.
Awesome, Ruchi. I think you have cracked that code to make sure that impatience is taken care of, and you being very proactive about, either recognitions or leadership, as you spoke about. Anything that you want to talk about, Dipanjan, from EPAM perspective?
Ruchi and Zarina had already covered some very pertinent aspects, right? I will
Yes.
focus on two areas. One
Yes.
is learning part of it, right? And EPAM, we are essentially focusing on learning through gamification. So you learn a code, you basically come to kind of a thing. It's a gamification process where a group of people are writing a code, another group of people are going there and trying to hack that code, right? So, people are really becoming innovative to do that. So this is a very good way of really learning your technologies, and also, really realizing how, the internet is inventing themselves, and how you should be secure from your perspective. There's some way of really looking at learning as a gamification. I think that's an important aspect that we are doing. The other is, I was talking about the passion part of it, and we do have fun clubs and stuff like that, and we take that very seriously. And this is a group where, if you have a critical number of people, then they take some break for a week, go publish those photographs, enjoy some of those stuff. I think the bonding part, and nowadays everybody is working in a hybrid model. Not many people are.
Yes.
Right?
Get to see each other. Yes.
From that in-office setup environment culture to more of a hybrid model, and that's the new normal anyway. In that context, how you really make that happen, for example, somebody's in Jaipur, somebody's in Kanpur, they are not really in EPAM office location, but creating that team, and then let's go to some place, take that break time, having sponsoring by companies for some that short period of time, and those are the things which kind of very, very useful in terms of connecting with them.
Very, very true, Dipanjan. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. At this point, I would just like to tell our audience to please feel free to ask us the questions you have been burning, that has been burning within you regarding this is the most interesting that topic as it can get. And I already see a couple of questions in the chat window, but encouraging you to give us more to think about. At this point, I would really like to understand. We've been talking about what the organization can do, and what are the policies and practices that the organizations can bring about to ensure that there is attraction and retention and advancement of these two generational cohorts. Now, I'd like to really flip it the other way around and see how you think that, and if there are case studies or interesting anecdotes that you can bring about millennials and Gen Zs actually contributing to this whole culture building within the organization, which we have spoken about their passions and their purpose driven, look out for jobs and stuff like that, pushing organizations to actually go that extra mile to become more purposeful, sustainable, etc. But how do these generations actually contribute back when it comes to creating that inclusive environment within the organization? Yeah. Zareen.
I just took it, this on
Yes.
this is speaking up, your mind. If you really look at an office environment, sometimes earlier we feel that observations, some thoughts, but you normally, don't speak up. What will the other person think about it, right? So, kind of subdued way of really keeping your mind, right? But this group is actually bringing that aspect into the picture. Speaking up is a very important part of the culture. And this is infectious. If one person starts doing that, the next person will get motivated. I think that's a good, cultural momentum that we can create, and transparency across the system because of that. I think that's just wanted to touch upon one part.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Please go ahead and add.
Yes, Zarina.
Thank you, Dipanjan. Speaker culture is also something that we're, very actively promoting, and I think it's a very important one that you've called out. But I would like to share an example, something which I'm, really proud of, and I'd like to share. It's about our DEI journey at Kargil Business Services over the last few months. For the last couple of years, I think the focus on gender has always been there, and we have numbers, data, programs which are embedded, focusing on all aspects, areas of development. But what we did differently this year, and a large part of the success of this entire DEI event or movement, goes to our teams who are running it. The focus, we wanted to move away, or rather, start focusing on intersectionality, and we looked at creating work streams, relaunching our work streams, which focused on LGBTQI plus, differently abled, neurodivergent, and gender, of course, continues. And the amount of nomination, when we relaunched this, we saw about 100 plus people nominate themselves to kind of partner, be driving some of these work streams, and 60 members have been very strongly driving this over the last six to 8 months, and we've done some amazing work in terms of creating awareness, letting people know. But what's more impressive is the fact that not the events that have been conducted, not the promotion that has happened. It's more about the individuals who are involved, their own intent to learn and unlearn what they know and they do not know about these 3 work streams. And the energy that they bring in to kind of take it to the next level in terms of making Kargil a truly inclusive workplace. It is infectious.
Awesome.
I'm very proud of it, and I'd like to just share that story with everyone.
Great, Zarina. That's really awesome. Ruchi, over to you. Yes.
Yeah, and I was just thinking when Dipanjan and Zarina were speaking, I think whatever they spoke of, whether it was speaking up culture or volunteering culture, it is infectious, right? The pivots really went up to infectious, and that's very important to drive organizational success. So I would say another thing that probably adds to that infectious category is ability to collaborate more through digital spaces, right? So these people, we already spoke about it. They're born with all of that. They are in the always on era. So I think what they bring and which gets infectious is sharing success, sharing something as simple as some application, right? Sharing a conversation. So this actually is very infectious, and I think it gives a lot of positive energy. And of course, we have to be a little bit careful as well. But I think overall, there's a lot of momentum that this collaborative instincts of Gen Z and millennial can bring to
That's
the
very interesting. That's very interesting and very useful too, if that can be leveraged. I'm just going to go to one of the audience questions. I don't know if we have time to take more, but just this one, where work from anywhere is going to be the future of work. We spoke about it here and there, but uh, somebody has asked for it to be clarified further. So, how is work from anywhere going to be the future of work? What is your plan as companies, and how do you see this being the norm? I think Dipanjan had spoken about this being hybrid work being the future. So, yes, over to you.
I think,
Yeah.
Rashmi, we have a specific focus on work from anywhere. In fact, it started much beyond COVID as it has, right? Because I think at a very executive level, our thought process was that if we can really do this, we'll be able to embrace the talent, which is different parts of the world, right?
The world.
We talk about something called borderless delivery. Now, from where you are delivering, it's not that critical. But if I have the right talent at some point, I should be able to kind of, take that along. Uh, so I think, that's very, very important from that work anywhere concept. It is embraced. People are doing it. It comes with some responsibility. So it is not just the organization which will, kind of give you that flexibility. You also have a reciprocation to it to build that trust and commitment that, when you are working from anywhere, there is an output or an outcome which is expected from you, and whether you can deliver that within the prescribed time frame. That's important. So where you can actually have a very tangible way of delivering the outcome, anywhere work is a very, very important thing. Where you really need to be in person, in office kind of a setup is for collaboration. So you will see most of the offices are right now converting their office spaces for a collaborative place where people, when they really need to collaborate, they'll come together, 10 people, 15 people in a small group. They'll do brainstorming, whiteboarding, have lunch together, do, kind of team bonding, go back. So it will eventually emerge as a collaboration center, the offices, and anywhere is going to be there in a very, very definitive way. What companies will also do, probably having the satellite offices. Earlier thought process was that I'll have 10,000 people, construct. I'll have 20,000 people construct in a particular city. But I think the way companies are looking into it, we'll have more satellite offices in smaller towns where I can really get a cluster of my people who are working from. Can I create in a small office there? Would be the approach, which is more towards that hybrid way of do the collaboration and also work from home kind of a modality.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any thoughts there to add, Ruchi or Zarina, about work from anywhere? Because I think it's a given. People have taken it for as the norm, and but then is there anything that is sticking out as something that probably what Dipanjan spoke about, trust, building trust, and being responsible? Is there anything which is an immediate something that people just need to understand and take care of before we can actually make it a norm in its full sense? Yeah. Zarina, you're on mute.
Sorry,
So sorry. Yes.
I think we all know the benefit of a hybrid work environment where you can choose, you have flexibility. What maybe I'd like to add on to what Dipanjan mentioned is for talent or people in early career, learning happens faster or better when you're able to collaborate, see, observe people around you. And that we need to acknowledge. And I think it's important for those who are looking at, who have clear objectives around what kind of aspects that they would like to imbibe. It's important that they leverage some of these open opportunities to come in, collaborate and learn from each other, which is important, and we need to.
True. I understand why you're saying that. Yes, Ruchi, any quick points there?
I think in the interest of time, I can say that the only way that we can draw a good balance between collaboration, human side of it, is probably to look at our benchmarking systems, right? How do we benchmark collaboration? How do we look at identifying what's working well? Well, you can collaborate in digital space too, but human interaction surpasses just every other mode of learning. So maybe we have to look at that at this point in time.
Thank you. Thank you. My brain is full of these buzzwords now. It's just, such a mind-boggling discussion this has been. Thank you so much to each one of you for having taken your time and really been here to discuss this very interesting topic and giving your views on this. I'm sure we all understand that we are all in for a very, very thrilling ride ahead as we look forward to this generation taking it's the entire steering wheel and riding us through. So thank you for this. Any parting remarks, and we can close the session?
I think I'm super excited to be part of this because it was a great conversation, great topic to be. So thank you so much, Rashmi, and
thank you.
I really enjoyed
it. Thank you, Ruchi. Thank you, Ruchi.
So that's fantastic to be part of this panel. Good topic, good discussion, and I think we will continue this.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you, Dipanjan, Ruchi. Thoroughly enjoyed. And if, maybe if you're a manager of Gen Z or a millennial, I think a few things to leave would be transparency, trust, your ability to explain the purpose and ability to accept the fact that you have to bring the people and for who they are, their complete self to work. And I think if you've got the code right for all these four, you have figured out your retention.
Thank you, Zarina.
Diversity, basically embrace.
Beautifully wrapped up.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Zarina, for doing my job. Closing the summary of it all. Thank you so much. Over to you, Shabana.
Thank you. Thank you, Rashmi.
Thank you, Rashmi, and thank you to all the panel members. So wasn't that an extremely thought-provoking one? It indeed was. So thank you for such wonderful participation. You've been a fantastic audience. And with this, we have kickstarted our month-long celebration Diversity Mahotsav, powered by partner Kellogg Brown and Root Engineering and Construction India Private Limited, and supporting partners Genesis and EPAM. And our outreach partner, MCCI, Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Our social media hashtags are hashtag Diversity Mahotsav and hashtag Celebrating Diversity. Please do post your experience at Diversity Mahotsav on all your SM handles or with the hashtags. On behalf of Team Avatar, I thank each one of you and welcome you to the forthcoming days of Diversity Mahotsav. Please remember, Diversity Mahotsav is between the 1st and 23rd of December, only on weekdays between 4 and 5 p.m. And as we draw close to the day, I'm going to request you to take a couple of minutes to provide your feedback on today's session. Please bring up the poll. Thank you. So how would you rate today's session on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the minimum and 5 being the maximum? How would you rate our speaker's session on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the minimum and 5 being the maximum? Is there anything else you wish the session covered in today's topic? Would like to suggest a topic that you wish to hear from us during Diversity Mahotsav? If yes, please give your suggestion in the text box. And finally, what is your takeaway from today's session? Thank you so much for the feedback. So we have yet another exciting day tomorrow for the panel speakers who will be speaking on the integrating intersectionality. a deep and thought-provoking conversation on how an individual can adjust approaches to embrace multidimensional identities of self, peer, and colleagues. The practicality and the possibility of supporting intersectionality as individuals, particularly with limited resources in an organization. It's going to be a panel discussion by Zoya, the Diversity and Inclusion Lead at Godrej Properties Limited, Shishendu Pandey, Head of Talent and Capability Aristocrat, and the session is going to be moderated by Ms. Anju G. Parvati, Vice President, Research and Solutions, Avatar Group. I would request you all to go, please visit myavatar.com to explore various opportunities and activities that celebrate diversity. If you've not yet registered at myavatar.com yet, please do log on to myavatar.com and register now. Browse through to find jobs that might suit your skill sets, read articles of interest, upskill yourself through various webinars that are conducted exclusively for you. Signing off today, Shabana Iqbal Feroz. Take care and stay safe.